Hello, my fellow subjects of the internet out there. This is the Aromantic Shipper back in with yet another video. Today we are going to be talking about Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, a show that many consider to be the best shonen anime of all time, equivalent to something like The Last Airbender. And I gotta be honest, I think it's a little overrated. Don't get me wrong, it's not mid. It's a great show, once you get past the first 12 episodes anyway. But I think that a lot of people tend to ignore the problems it has in holding it up as this shining city upon a hill. It especially pisses me off because the original 2003 Fullmetal Alchemist just seems to exist almost entirely within Brotherhood's shadow, and almost no one talks about it despite it being really fucking good and doing a lot of stuff better than Brotherhood did. 459th place on my anime list while Brotherhood is number 1? Are you fucking kidding me? But whatever, this video isn't going to be me talking about why Brotherhood is overrated or why 2003 is underrated. I mean, it was, but the script went on for so long and I started writing it like a year ago and never finished. And also, I'm dead-ass broke right now and probably won't be out with another video until next Christmas. So, yeah. Well, anyway, this shorter video is simply going to be me talking about one specific scene from Brotherhood that I view as the worst scene in the entire show, and that is the homunculus Envy's confrontation with Colonel Mustang. It is so laughably bad in pretty much every way imaginable, but basically everyone either doesn't talk about it or claims that they actually like it, and I feel like people have to be lying to themselves. When I first watched it, like 6 years ago, I was practically screaming at the screen the entire time because of how much it pissed me off. Maybe I'm just crazy, but in this video, I'm going to lay out my reasons for why I hate this scene so much, and hopefully you can see where I'm coming from. So the first problem with Envy's confrontation with Mustang is that it is unbelievably contrived. If you actually think about the circumstances that led up to it for more than 2 seconds, you'll realize that it never should have happened in the first place. So, back in episode 43, Envy is defeated by Dr. Marco, and they revert into a tiny, pathetic worm-like creature. But they still aren't helpless. Almost immediately afterwards, they possess Yoki's body and threaten to kill him. Thankfully, nobody cares about Yogi, so their plan fails. But even so, they still clearly demonstrate that they have the capacity to be very dangerous. So, when deciding how to deal with Envy, the gang up north makes the illogical decision of giving them to a 10-year-old. Actually, no, I misspoke. It's not the whole gang who decides it, it's Scar who decides to do this. Scar! Really? Scar is just going to hand the person responsible for the war of extermination waged against his people to a fucking 10-year-old. There is no way he would ever do that. But, Shipper, I hear you saying, it is actually a totally reasonable decision for Scar to do that because he was going through a lot of character development. He was no longer focused on revenge anymore, and giving Envy to Mei Chang as a prize to give to her emperor was supposed to be showcasing that. Yes, okay, I get what the scene was trying to showcase, but first of all, even if Scar has developed as a character and no longer wants to kill all alchemists, the idea that he would just be fine with leaving the person directly responsible for the Ishvalan extermination alive, much less contained in a fragile glass jar held by a 10-year-old, is just, it's ridiculous. I'm sorry, it's just bad writing. But even disregarding Scar's personal hatred towards Envy, does nobody come to the realization that this might be a little bit of a bad idea? Once again, it has been explicitly demonstrated that even though Envy is greatly weakened, they are not harmless, and they are also a manipulative fuck. Envy easily could have manipulated Mei Chang into getting them into a position where they could escape and regain their power by consuming more souls. Which, oh yeah, is exactly what fucking happened! So great job, Scar, you almost killed this little girl. The confrontation between Mustang and Envy never should have happened in the first place if the characters actually acted with a shred of intelligence. It was one giant contrivance. But, you know, sometimes contrivances are necessary to get the story where you want it to go, right? And it would have just been a waste to never see Mustang confront Hughes' killer, right? So that means the actual scene is really good, right? And totally worth the contrived setup, right? No, it's so fucking terrible. So, the first problem is the way that Envy behaves during the initial meeting. In episode 53, they come face to face with Scar, Edward, Hawkeye, and Colonel Mustang, and May, and the Chimera, and for some reason, they don't turn around immediately and get the fuck out of there to try to consume more of those zombie soldiers. I know they have a big ego, but what reason would they ever think that facing 3 of the most dangerous alchemists in the world by themselves in a weakened state was anything but suicidal? It doesn't make any sense. It's another giant contrivance. But then, Envy just proceeds to start mocking them, asking which of them will be the first to die. Then when Mustang asks them who killed Maze Hughes, Envy just starts bragging about how they were the one who did it, taunting Mustang by transforming into Hughes' wife. And seriously, it's not like Envy doesn't know how strong Mustang is. Mustang was the one who was able to incinerate Lust in a single minute. Why on earth would Envy think doing this would lead to anything other than Mustang completely obliterating them? Surprise, surprise, Mustang then proceeds to completely obliterate them. But that's not nearly the stupidest part of Mustang's confrontation with Envy. Oh no. After Envy finally tries to run away, it cuts to Edward Elric and Scar talking about how concerned they are for Mustang. Oh, not because they think he is in any danger from Envy, but instead from, gasp, himself. Scar says that Mustang is being consumed by vengeance, and if he continues on his current path, the flames of hatred will consume him, and it is doubtful he will ever recover. What? No, seriously, what the fuck? Where did this come from? Well, in episode 54, Mustang catches up to Envy and burns them alive, reducing them back to their worm form. Then Mustang steps on them, about to kill them, and then Hawkeye points a gun at Mustang and threatens to shoot him?
What? What the fuck?
Then Edward and Scar show up. Edward takes Envy from Mustang and refuses to hand them back. Edward then tells Mustang to take a good look in the mirror and asks him if the man who plans to lead the country is going to be just another monster. Scar questions him if he is a beast giving into his passion. He says he shudders to think of what kind of world a man kept captive by his own hatred would create. Then Hawkeye tells Mustang that killing Envy will not help anyone, not the country or his friends. He is just running off pure hatred, and she will not let it take over him, because she knows he is better than that.
Stop!
And then Mustang relents and admits that he was in the wrong, embarrassed by the fact that he had to be scolded by a child and that he forced Hawkeye into the position of having to point a gun at him.
Stop!
Okay, look, I understand the point this scene is trying to make. I can't not understand it because the scene is so ham-fisted in how it tries to beat the audience over the head with the message that revenge is bad. After Mustang relents, Worm Envy goes on this giant tirade calling everyone a moron, telling them that they should all just let go of their inhibitions and take the revenge that they desire on those they hate, claiming that it is impossible to let go of their grudges. But then Chad Edward Elric tells the virgin Envy that they are just a jelly belly because humans are able to forgive and forget because they have feelings and junk while they don't. Further, Hawkeye threatening to shoot Mustang is a payoff to the promise that she made Mustang after the Ishvalan War flashbacks, where Colonel Mustang told her to shoot him if he ever strayed from his righteous path. I get it, okay? Problem is, nothing about the scene makes any logical sense. Literally none whatsoever. How exactly was Mustang going off the deep end, I ask? Because he was trying to kill Envy? How is Mustang trying to kill Envy in any way different to him killing Lust? I mean, seriously, when Mustang burned Lust alive in episode 19, it was portrayed as this super awesome, badass moment for Mustang. Yet Mustang is portrayed as a monster for doing literally the exact same thing to Envy? What is categorically different between the two confrontations? I guess there is the fact that Mustang takes more time toying with Envy than he did with Lust, like he burns their tongue and their eyes before trying to burn them to death, but Mustang's execution of Lust was still pretty brutal. Well, I mean, maybe the audience is supposed to feel some sort of sympathy for Envy where they weren't for Lust. I can only guess that's what the series is trying to portray, considering how much the scene focuses on the pain Mustang is inflicting on Envy. And there is the long, drawn-out scene of Envy snuffing their own life out, sobbing pathetically on the ground. But honestly, I don't feel a single shred of sympathy for this little shit. I don't care if deep down they are jealous of humanity's ability to form emotions and bond with each other. If you want me to feel some sort of emotion over a character's death other than satisfaction, then maybe don't choose what is arguably the most sadistic, irredeemable monster in the whole series, who gleefully celebrates mass murder.
You're horrible. You're an irredeemable monster.
What took you so long, idiot?
But you know what? Maybe the important thing that's different between Mustang killing Lust and Mustang killing Envy is that Mustang was trying to kill Envy because he wanted revenge for Hugh's killer, and revenge is bad. I mean, Mustang was also definitely trying to get revenge on Lust, too, for paralyzing Havoc, but I guess we'll just ignore that. But okay, Mustang was wrong for trying to kill Envy because revenge is wrong. Alright? But why is revenge wrong? No, seriously, why is Mustang trying to avenge Hugh's death wrong? You see, in stories that have an anti-revenge message, you kinda have to demonstrate why and how a character's quest for vengeance is harming either themselves or those around them. An example of an anime that does a fantastic job of portraying an anti-revenge message is Vinland Saga. By the way, spoilers for Vinland Saga. So in that show, the main character Thorfinn has the single-minded goal of killing Askeladd to avenge the death of his father, and the show does not at all portray this as a heroic goal. In his quest to avenge his father, Thorfinn commits extremely horrific acts and kills possibly over 100 people. He directly aids Askeladd in his pillage, murder, and rape throughout Europe because Askeladd has promised him a duel if he serves him long enough on his endeavors. But in addition to harming others, Thorfinn's quest for revenge is also extremely harmful to himself. He is just a child when he joins Askeladd's crew, and is traumatized by the extreme violence that he witnesses and commits. He abandons his still-living family, who loves him, to avenge a dead man, and becomes a cold, pleasureless shell of his former self. And after Askeladd dies, in Season 2, the audience is shown just how empty Thorfinn is inside, without the ability to achieve his goal, and how he has horrific, guilt-induced nightmares about the people that he killed. By contrast, how has Mustang's quest for vengeance negatively impacted himself or anyone around him? Does it push him away from those closest to him, like Hawkeye? Nope. Is it an obsession that ends up consuming Mustang to the point where he can't focus on anything else? Nope. Literally all he does before coming across Envy is just ask the homunculi that he meets if they know who killed Hughes. That's it! Is Mustang's quest for revenge harming anyone? Well, obviously it's harming Envy because he's trying to kill them, but like I said, I don't care. Fuck Envy. Mustang has already killed hundreds of people. A lot of them completely innocent victims of the Ishvalan extermination. But killing Envy is somehow going too far? Envy has done absolutely everything they can to prove that they are still dangerous, and will try to hurt people if they are left alive. They literally just disguised themselves as Mustang in an attempt to kill Hawkeye in the very same episode, and would have succeeded despite her seeing through their disguise had Mustang not come and saved her. Mustang killing Envy was doing the world a favor. It was saving other people from the potential harm they would inflict on humanity in the future. Hawkeye even says herself that she isn't planning on letting Envy live, but is planning on killing them herself to avoid Mustang going down a dark path. What dark path? What is morally questionable about Mustang's actions? How is Hawkeye killing Envy in any way different from Mustang doing the same thing? Is it because Mustang is emotional and angry? Sometimes people are emotional and angry. It doesn't necessarily mean what they're doing is wrong or harmful. Is it because Mustang threatened to burn off Ed's hand if he didn't give Envy back to him? Mustang is Ed's superior officer, whom he is disobeying orders from by refusing to let him take care of an incredibly dangerous, shape-shifting homunculus who almost killed his subordinate. Is it because Mustang made a mean face? I mean, Ed specifically comments about how frightening Mustang's face looks. Are we obeying Game of Thrones logic, where a mean face automatically equals that someone is planning to commit genocide? Well, I mean, to be fair, Mustang never made a scary, intimidating face when he killed Lust. Oh, wait! He did. Yeah, actually, in regards to Daenerys in Game of Thrones, at least there were actual moments of her doing some morally questionable stuff before the Bells moment we all know and hate. Mustang does a lot of morally questionable stuff. in flashbacks to the Ishvalan extermination, but in the present story, he is pretty much just a squeaky clean paragon of virtue. He basically never does anything remotely morally questionable. If the series wanted to set up Mustang going down a super dark path and getting consumed by revenge, then it would have made more sense if Mustang had actually, for example, killed Lieutenant Ross. Mustang killing an innocent woman for just being suspected of murdering Hughes would have been incredibly brutal and would have really gotten the audience to question if Mustang's head was screwed on right. But nope, he just faked her death. Mustang pretty much acts rationally composed throughout the whole series, never letting his desire to avenge Hughes get in the way of his main goal of taking down the fascist government and creating a better world for people to live in, and he still doesn't when he tries to kill Envy, because although he also has an emotional reason, killing Envy is also in service of making the world a better place. So I ask you, if there was no indication that Mustang's quest for revenge ever negatively affected him, or the people around him, or the world, then what was the harm of Mustang killing Envy? That he would have gone fucking psycho if he had? Because the series just keeps on hammering home the point that Mustang was going insane. If Scar and I hadn't been there, you'd have gone over the edge. It may enrage you, as an Ishvalan, to have someone like me to thank you, but I'm grateful that you persuaded the Colonel to stop. He was almost lost forever. And no, he was not! Seriously, if Mustang had killed Envy, you know what would have happened? Fucking nothing! That's what! He probably would have felt some satisfaction, and then some emptiness, and then just moved on and got back to the plot. There was no indication that Mustang killing Envy was anything but reasonable, and no indication that Mustang had any screws loose. But the series sure tries its damnedest to gaslight the audience into believing that he would have turned into fucking Fuhrer Bradley if he had killed Envy, despite nothing in the series ever supporting that idea. The Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood series has this problem with trying to beat its audience over the head with its messages and themes, with very little subtlety or nuance, at times to the detriment of its plot and characters. I honestly think that the Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 series had a better and less preachy way of expressing its themes to the audience, in that when Ed was making a speech about his righteous ideals, the show treated it as if it was just his own incomplete worldview that had flaws, rather than the writer preaching to the audience. Now, don't get me wrong, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood still has some powerful scenes that deal with the theme of revenge. A good example is earlier in the series, when Winry tries to kill Scar. This scene works for two main reasons that Mustang trying to kill Envy doesn't. First of all, Winry is not a hardened soldier with a body count in the triple digits. She is a sensitive 15-year-old girl who has never killed someone, and would likely be extremely traumatized by doing so. So her taking revenge would absolutely be harmful to her. And on top of that, Scar is not an irredeemable psychopath, like Envy. He has killed a lot of people, but he is also a victim. Alchemists committed genocide against his people. It may not be right to go around killing every alchemist he can find, regardless of if they have harmed or will harm people, but he isn't pure evil. He is morally gray, and is ultimately fighting against the same enemies that the protagonists are. He eventually becomes a better person, seeing the error of his ways, and works with the protagonists, playing an instrumental part in taking Father down. Had Winry killed him, the entire world would have been destroyed. Thus, her taking revenge would have harmed other people. But in the case of Mustang and Envy, nothing about this confrontation makes any sense. It is the worst example in the series of author Hiromu Arakawa completely derailing the story and presenting utter nonsense for the sake of preaching to the audience. The writing for Mustang vs. Envy is just fucking terrible. It is the worst scene in all of Fullmetal Alchemist. But, hey, that's just my opinion. If you have your own thoughts, please leave them in the comments down below. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. This has been the Aromantic Shipper, and hey, maybe give Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 a watch if you have the time. It deserves to be remembered. Bye!